The APAPA Voters Education Forum was held on October 28, 2007 at Sacramento State University. Various political candidates, elected officials, and members of government attended the event. The show you are about to watch includes highlights from that forum. Every effort was made to give each party equal exposure and to summarize their position in a fair manner. The views and opinions expressed in this highlight show are those of the persons expressing them, and in no way reflect the views and opinions of KBTV Global Television or APAPA. We hope you find this show entertaining and informative. We begin the show with opening remarks from Secretary of State Deborah Bowen.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, CCEN, for inviting me to be with you again today. It is wonderful to see the partnership that APAPA has created with so many community organizations and to see the energy that you have put into making this democracy your democracy. That is one of my main missions as your Secretary of State, reaching out to every eligible voter in California, young and old, people of all ethnicities and backgrounds, to engage them and inspire them to get involved in our democratic process. We have a long history of immigrants building California into the golden state that it is today. And there were times when California didn't allow all of its citizens the same rights and privileges. Of course, my path to becoming California's second woman Secretary of State was paved by the trailblazing March Fong Yu, the first Asian American woman elected to statewide office in the nation. She still knocks people over. I know she must be delighted, as I am, that you are here registering new voters today. So if you're here and you are eligible to vote but you haven't registered, I know you won't leave here without making sure that you will be voting next year in the first presidential primary since 1952 in which no incumbent is running. It is going to be a very exciting year, and it's a wonderful time for all of us to turn people into U.S. citizens and U.S. citizens into voters. We need to work on the entire spectrum of our democracy, registering people to vote, educating registered voters about the issues, making sure voters have all of the materials they need in a language they understand, and we print election materials in Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. Then we need to make sure our registered voters actually cast ballots and that our voting systems are secure and every vote is counted as it was cast. We are going to have a phenomenal year next year, many opportunities to set the direction of this country, to decide how we want our healthcare system to work and how we want our foreign policy to work, to work on our water supply, and to basically work on every issue that we care about in California. You, in this room, who are voters, will steer the course of this great country and this great state. You don't have to be an elected official to be a powerful part of our democracy. You just have to care, inform yourself, and vote. You are on the front lines of democracy, carrying the torch and spreading the word about the power of civic engagement. Thank you for everything you do. I am very honored to count APAPA as a strong partner in voter education and outreach. I thank Amy Tong and the host committee. I look forward to working with every single one of you in the coming years. Thank you.
And now, speech and debates from our congressional candidates.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the Asian Pacific Islanders Public Affairs Council and all the other community organizations who have been a part of this important forum. My name is Charlie Brown, and I'm running for Congress in the 4th Congressional District. It's a vast and beautiful area that stretches from Sacramento to Lake Tahoe, north to the Oregon border. In truth, my campaign began 35 years ago when I took an oath of office when I launched my military career to defend this country, its Constitution, and its values. My wife took the same oath, and so has my son, who's now served 4 rotations in Iraq. I've been in the national security business for 30 years, And I'm running because I know America's future security and our quality of life are on the ballot in 2008. We're at war at home, we're in debt, and we're increasingly isolated in the world and divided. We have tough problems to solve, and there's no question that we need change in Washington to solve them.
1 minute.
Thank you. I too want to thank APAPA for organizing this event. I understand it's grown substantially in the last few years, and I'm happy to be here. I want to just take a few minutes to discuss a little bit about my background. I'm a fifth-generation native of Placer County and grew up with the Japanese-American community in Placer County. I spent 30 years in the Navy, retired as a Navy captain. During my term in the Navy, I served in Vietnam, in South Korea, in Taiwan, in Beijing, and also in Hong Kong. So today I want to welcome Gowei Shenzhen Gowei Nusher Nimen Hao. Based on that experience, I'm very much familiar with the culture and the people of that part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I too would like to thank APAPA for putting on this wonderful forum, and I'm honored to be here. I'm an emergency physician, also known as an ER doc. I've been taking care of people in the Sacramento area for over 25 years. I'm also the past president of the Sacramento chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Before I went into medicine, I served in the military, in the Marines, with 3rd Force Recon, and I'm a combat veteran of Vietnam. In January of last year, some people came to me and asked me if I'd consider running for Congress. I was reluctant at first because I'd never run for political office. But my training both in the Marines and the Emergency Department has taught me to recognize and address life-threatening situations. I see a life threat to our troops and to innocent civilians in Iraq, a life threat to many people in our own country who can't afford health care, and a life threat, thank you, a life threat to our democracy with the erosion of the principles upon which our country was founded. I'm running for Congress to address these life threats, and I look forward to discussing them here today.
This next question is directed at all three candidates. And the first respondent will be Mike Holmes. Most Western-type democracies provide health care for its citizens, but the U.S. does not. What is your position on providing health care coverage for all citizens, and how would you propose to fund this program?
Thank you. Well, I know this has been a very hot topic here recent years, and I'm taking a very close look at what's going on in Massachusetts and the plan that's under consideration for California. One of the beauties of this country is that as a federal democracy, the states can develop programs that then the federal government can take a look at and see how they work in an individual state, and then possibly adapt them for use throughout the country. I'm very much concerned about rural health care, particularly in the rural areas of the 4th Congressional District, where a number of hospitals have had to close because of lack of funding. We need to have some kind of health care program that people can buy into, that everybody is covered, but not a socialist medicine system. Thank you.
Our next respondent will be Charlie Brown. Health care, and how would you fund it?
I support universal health care. Starting point is passage of the S-chip bill, which has been stalled by our president. This needs to be passed to provide health care for our children. If we don't start taking care of the children of this country, it has no future. We need affordable health care for the people of this country. It needs to cover everyone. It needs to be affordable. It needs to have freedom of choice. It needs to have quality, and it needs to be transferable. I'm not sure how the exact way we get there is, but we need to start having a serious discussion about it in this country. And most definitely, we see increasing problems in the rural areas, not only in the 4th Congressional District, but in the rural areas in the Midwest, where health care is not only priced out of the reach of so many people, it becomes non-existent. So we need to be working towards universal health care for everyone, and the time to start that is now. It's going to take a couple years to achieve, but now is the time to have a serious dialogue about it.
Thank you. Bill Durston.
Thank you. Well, as our moderator has stated, the United States is one of the few Western industrialized countries that doesn't have some form of universal health care. And yet we pay 2 to 3 times more per capita, as much for health care in our country, as the other industrialized countries that do have universal health care. On top of that, in terms of overall measures of quality of care, the quality in the United States ranks in the lower half to lower 1/3 among those other countries. I believe that access to necessary medical care is a basic human right, not a privilege based upon one's ability to pay. I've spent my entire career in the emergency department treating patients to the best of my ability without regard to their socioeconomic status or ability to pay. I've also testified before the state legislature in favor of bills that would take us toward universal health care, including AB 8 and Senator Kuehl's bill. As Charlie Brown has mentioned, both Charlie's Republican opponent, John Doolittle, and my opponent, Dan Lundgren, have voted against extending state children's health insurance program, health insurance for kids of lower income families, saying it's too expensive. Yet they vote for unlimited spending for this war in Iraq. As a U.S. Congressman, I'll work to ensure that every person in our country has access to timely, affordable, high-quality health care.
There are approximately 13 million Asian Americans in the United States, many who are immigrants. Could you please outline your recommendations to reform U.S. immigration policy?
Well, we need a comprehensive immigration reform. There's no question about that. It begins with getting control of our borders so we know who's actually coming in. Once we have reasonable border security, and that starts with implementing the 9/11 Commission recommendations to get control of our borders, our ports, our airlines, then we get a reasonable amount of people coming in. We track who's coming in legally. We give them the rights that they deserve for doing things legally. For the ones who are here illegally, we treat them the same you would any other illegal act. You bring them before a magistrate, you fine them, the system pays for itself, and we move ahead. But this is a country of immigrants. We need not only the labor force, we need the diversity. We need the new ideas that immigrants bring in. We are not a closed society. We need to open up our borders legally to let people come in so this country continues to have the new ideas that will make us #1 in the world again.
Thank you. Bill Durston, same question, immigration policy.
Well, immigration is a long-standing and complex issue for which there's no one single simple solution. If we're ever going to make real progress, though, on the issue of immigration, and particularly illegal immigration, we need to reject the politics of hatred and fear and instead develop policies based on reason and understanding. We've had many bad immigration laws in our country. The one that this community probably knows well about is the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which made it illegal for anybody from China to immigrate to the United States all the way through 1943. That was a bad law. Many people violated it. You may be sons, daughters, offspring of people who violated that law. I support respect for the law, but I will work to change laws that don't respect the contributions of immigrants to our community, and laws which build barriers, physical or otherwise, between cultures.
Thank you. Mike Holmes.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that we need a thorough overhaul in our immigration policies and procedures. Some of these laws go back to favor the European people who came from the European countries, and it hasn't been updated thoroughly enough in my estimation. Yes, people are concerned about the number of undocumented aliens in this country, and I think we should be. We need to strengthen our borders, as was previously mentioned, and there are ongoing efforts to do that. But I favor a guest worker program similar to the Bracero program that we had in this country in the 1940s, 50s, and early 60s. So that way we could get some of the workers we need, and they would be here legally. I do not favor amnesty for those who came here illegally, but there may be some way to work out a compromise.
This goes to Bill Durston. Baby boomers have begun to retire. What specifically will you do to ensure that Social Security benefits will be around for you and those after you?
First of all, I want to say I do not favor privatization of Social Security. I don't think that would secure Social Security any more than privatization of energy, or the Enronization, I would call it, secured energy for us. The United States spends as much on its military as the next leading 10 militarized countries of the world. We need to stop wasting vast resources on war and preparation for war, and instead use those resources to meet the needs of our own people, including funding the Social Security system.
This next question goes to Mike Holmes and Charlie Brown. First, Mike Holmes. The U.S. launched a preemptive strike against Iraq. What is your position on launching a preemptive strike against Iran or North Korea?
It'd be totally crazy to do that. I don't know. We went into Iraq, as I said before, under false pretenses. We didn't have the correct intelligence. The U.S. Army and the Marine Corps are stretched thin. We have used more National Guard and reserve forces in this war in Iraq, and there's just no way I could support whether it's a preemptive strike or an invasion or any other activity. We need to talk to the Iranians diplomatically and try to work things out that way.
We've seen that diplomacy did work with North Korea. Unfortunately, it's taken way too many years to get to the point where we're at now, but it does appear that they're dismantling their nuclear program. We need to get serious about a diplomatic dialogue with Iran. All of the pretext of war and a strike against them is not opening up lines of communications. We have Russia and China who are actively trading with Iran. We have other countries actively trading with Iran. The sooner we get serious about diplomacy and quit making them fear us, the sooner we will be able to find a solution to not only Iran, but so many of the other areas in the world. This starts with getting our allies back behind us.
We'll now go to our closing statements, 30 seconds each. We'll begin with Bill Durston. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, as I said at the beginning, I'm an emergency physician. I appreciate being allowed to speak to you, but I also look forward to listening to you. A lot of people think that being an ER doc is all fast-paced action, and there is some fast-paced action, and I enjoy that part where it's fast-paced action to save a life. But the biggest part of being an emergency doctor is listening to the patient and the patient's family to find out what's wrong with the patient and what you can do about it. I believe the same should be true of a congressman. A congressman needs to be a good listener, and listening to people like you will help determine what's wrong with our country and what we need to do to fix what's wrong. I've been honored to treat patients in the emergency department from our community. I'm honored to speak here today, and I look forward to the honor of serving as a congressman representing you, the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie Brown, 30 seconds.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you for listening to us. Politicians need to be listening to you more. And I'd like to thank Mike and Bill for being here also. I'm not a career politician. I'm like you out there in the audience. You know, I'm a father. I'm someone who served the country. And it's time we get serious about getting the partisanship out of our politics and get back to solving the problems of this country. As I said before, I believe in results like secure borders, a government that spends within its means, and energy independence. And the difference is priorities. We can have health care for our citizens. We can have care for our veterans if we just get our priorities together. So let's get back to common sense, taking care of the people of this country, and I hope you'll support my campaign.
Thank you. Mike Holmes, 30 seconds.
Well, there's a certain house on the other side of this country that is in bad need of repair. And I'm talking about the House of Representatives. It's the People's House. And it's time we put the People's House back in responsible hands. As Charlie said, we're not career politicians. But as a Republican over the last couple of years, I've seen countless examples of shameless corruption and malfeasance from some of our elected leaders. Unfortunately, the current incumbent in the 4th Congressional District has a cloud over his head as well. I want to make at least one promise to you, and that is if I'm elected, that I will restore ethics and moral behavior to this office in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. Let's give them a big hand for taking the time out to speak to you specifically today. And good luck to you all.
And now, words from our elected officials regarding health care.
First, we go to Sarah Rogers with a 2-minute opening statement representing Senator Sheila Kuehl.
Thank you very much. Senator Sheila Kuehl has, for the last 6 years, been working on a truly universal health care proposal that is, in our view, really the only plan anywhere to be found that actually covers every Californian at long last with a comprehensive level of benefits. And it's based on a really simple idea. We're spending $186 billion a year right now on health care. It is twice as much as every other industrial country is spending at this time to cover all of their residents, yet we leave 20% of our population uninsured. We're also receiving, at the bottom of all industrial countries, the quality of our healthcare system is ranked 37th in the world. So we are not receiving the kind of quality healthcare system that for the amount of money that we're spending. And the basic reason is that we're wasting 30% of every healthcare dollar on a system designed to segregate us into sick or well. And that is really a wasteful exercise that is wasting a great deal of money that could be better used to actually provide direct healthcare services. And so we have proposed what is called a single-payer healthcare system, which instead of having lots of different insurance companies, lots of different healthcare plans and packages, instead provides every resident with comprehensive benefits and then allows everyone to choose their own doctor, choose their own hospital, and have a truly universal, comprehensive level of benefits. It saves money, it reduces the growth in healthcare spending, and it is, in our view, truly the only way California is going to get a handle on our growing healthcare crisis. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm here representing Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who obviously is off busy doing, helping Southern California kind of recover from the fires, and I'm one of the healthcare advisors in his office. Basically, the governor's view is the system is broken. You all know it out there. You try to access emergency rooms, and they're overcrowded. People that are uninsured right now are subject to very, very large debts if they don't have health insurance and are subject to personal bankruptcy. Less and less employers are offering coverage than were offering it before. There's a whole, and healthcare costs keep going up and up and up, much faster than our average wage increases, much faster than employers are seeing in terms of the increase in their profits. So basically the system is at a really tipping point right now, and what the governor wants to do is provide coverage for everybody, at the same time really encourage and help people take better care of themselves through prevention and wellness. His history as a bodybuilder and all that kind of stuff, so he always leads with prevention and wellness and fitness. So what can we do to help people get better care of themselves? What can we do to help employers to give incentives to their employees to take better care of themselves? And finally, the third kind of plank is one of cost containment. In the employer community, they can't continue to offer benefits because of the very, very high costs. So basically trying to get everybody covered, doing a much better job on cost containment so employers can continue to offer coverage to their employees, and to do a lot better job on prevention and wellness so people have more incentives to take care of themselves and to help employees take care of themselves.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much. On behalf of my boss, Senator Parada, I want to commend APAPA for having a forum like this. You could have chose any number of issues to talk about, but you wanted to talk about health care, and I think that's really important. When they do polls now nationally, the number 2 issue that voters are concerned about is health care. Most recently in the newspaper, people have been following what's been going on with the S-chip reauthorization. Congress, the Democrats in Congress, joined by many Republicans, have said we want to expand the number of people that the federal government supports so that all low-income children can get health care. The president vetoed that, and he said we don't have enough money for that. And health care is a matter of priority. We don't have enough money because we're fighting a war in Iraq, and we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars there, so we don't have the money, he says, to come up with $30 billion to pay for low-income children health care. In California, to the governor's credit, he said, this is the year of health care, and we've been working very closely with the administration to find a compromise along 3 lines. And my colleague, Mr. Figueroa, has mentioned some of them. We're trying to expand coverage to people who don't have coverage now. We're trying to make sure that people who now cannot get coverage because they have pre-existing conditions because they're sick and insurance companies won't cover them, we're trying to stop that. We're trying to stop the rapid increase, the escalation in the cost of health care. And finally, we're trying to figure out a way to pay for it all using a concept where everyone pitches in, the employers, the federal government, and individuals.
First, we'll go to Sarah Rogers. Under your plan, can a patient be denied health care benefits because of pre-existing conditions? And this question will go to all 3 panel members.
No, there will be no such thing as a pre-existing condition under a single-payer health care plan. The only requirement is that you are a resident of the state of California. Everyone will have access. There will also be no co-pays or no deductibles for at least the first 2 years, and strong limits. It is the only way that everybody actually has the care that their doctor recommends. And in fact, in the bill, we specify that anything that is medically appropriate will be covered under the bill.
Okay. Thank you. Richard Figueroa, pre-existing conditions.
The governor's plan, too, basically tells insurers, stop denying individuals based on pre-existing medical conditions. In many communities of color, there's high rates of hypertension, diabetes, etc. And unfortunately, insurers use those markers as a reason to say no to individuals or charge them a very, very, very high rate. The governor believes this practice just absolutely has to stop, and insurers have to stop cherry-picking our populations and separating us between healthy and unhealthy.
And David Panush, same question.
I think this is a huge problem. It's a huge problem, and people are just starting to focus on how pervasive it is. I would just, by a show of hands, how many people here have been denied coverage when they tried to get coverage from an insurance company? Anyone? Hand? Yeah. As more and more people are shifted into the individual markets where they have to go on an individual basis to get coverage from insurance companies, we will be seeing more and more of this segmentation, of this discrimination against people who need health care the most. In the case of the proposal that was proposed by the speaker and by my boss, pre-existing conditions would also be something that would move to the past. It would not be allowed.
Thank you. Will your plan provide comprehensive coverage, including prescription drugs? And just to what extent what kind of coverage are each of the plans talking about. We'll go to Richard Figueroa.
Thank you. What the governor is proposing is basically for persons below 100% of the federal poverty level, which is like, for example, a single person making $10,000 or less, they would be in Medi-Cal. And many of you are familiar with Medi-Cal, and basically provides comprehensive coverage for no cost whatsoever. For persons that make below 250% of the federal poverty level, and that's like $40,000 for a family of 4, they would receive subsidized comprehensive coverage that includes prescription drug coverage. For persons above that, they would have a choice of what they wish to purchase in the individual market. We're suggesting that a number of individuals will be eligible for tax credits to assist them in purchasing pretty much whatever they want, because we are going to make all the policies guarantee issuance. But we haven't said there'll be no co-pays, no deductibles. They'll basically be purchasing things that what they would choose to purchase in the individual market, and again with subsidies for middle income and lower income workers.
Thank you. David Panush.
In the legislative proposal, AB 8, there would be comprehensive benefits for everyone that would be in our purchasing pool. They would get comprehensive benefits, including prescription drugs, and hospital inpatient, the whole bit.
Thank you. And Sarah Rogers.
Senate Bill 840 actually guarantees a very fully comprehensive health care package for every California resident universally. That would include anything that a private plan currently provides and more, including things like acupuncture and all kinds of other essential services that are very important to Californians, and do include prescription drugs, vision care, hospital inpatient, mental health care. It's the most comprehensive benefit package really anywhere to be found.
And now we have 1 minute each for closing remarks to talk about your plan, what you think is important, and why it is the plan that should move forward. First we go with David Panush.
Well, I don't know how many people here remember Earl Warren. He was the governor of California about 60 years ago. He was the last Republican that made an effort to get comprehensive health care for the people of California, the last Republican, until Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we have a huge opportunity here to do something real in California and to send a message nationally so that health care makes it as the top #1 issue for the whole country, and we can do that here. We sent a proposal to the governor, he vetoed it. He sent us a proposal, and we're studying it now. We have a little time left to see if we can find a way of bringing the two sides together in a compromise that can move us forward. That's where we are now, and we're looking forward to working with the administration. We think that there are tremendous opportunities. We support, my boss and the Speaker of the Assembly supports the single-payer proposal by Senator Kuehl. We're not sure that will be implemented in the near future. And so we think that there's an opportunity to do something now for the people who need it now, and that's our obligation and our responsibility, and that's what we'll be working toward.
Thank you. Richard?
When the governor was reelected last November and gave his first major speech of the year, he really did focus on health care. This is how he's decided he wanted to spend his year. It's what he's been talking about all throughout the state, visiting ERs and with business individuals, people in the community, et cetera, to kind of talk about health care and what they think ought to be done. This is his priority. As David mentioned, the clock's kind of ticking to get this done this year, but he really is committed to do this. He wants to cover everybody. He wants to help lower the costs for small business through cost containment efforts, and he wants to provide a system where everybody can help get better, involve themselves in more prevention, help work on diabetes management, help work to lower the rate of childhood obesity in our schools. So he's really committed to doing this year, and with your help, we're going to do it.
Thank you, panel members, for helping us wade through the healthcare, the muddle that is healthcare. No? Good luck to you. Hopefully, we'll have a plan. I'm sorry. I forgot, Sarah.
No problem. Sarah. Thank you very much. Senator Kuehl believes with SB 840 that it is really the only and best chance of truly achieving universal health care because it's really the only plan that's actually been tested in the real world. Every other industrial country in the world uses a system similar to this, as well as systems right here in the United States with our Medicare program, which is a single-payer model for seniors, as well as our Veterans Administration. So these are models that are tested and proven and work in the United States, as well as every other industrial country, to contain costs, to provide a high level of quality, to provide a modern, high level of benefit for every resident. And with the momentum that we have today, we think it makes sense to spend that momentum on the true gold standard for health reform, rather than spend it on something that will lead us in a few years down the road to have to revisit this problem. And really only this model is poised to actually begin to create the healthcare system that every Californian deserves.
Thank you. Sarah Rogers with Senator Sheila Kuehl's office, Richard Figueroa with the governor's office, and David Panush with Senate Pro Tem Parada's office. Thanks again for coming and sharing your ideas with us.
And now, candidates running for state offices.
Good evening, everyone. It's very much my pleasure to be here. This event gets larger every year. That is a tribute to the organizers and to all of you that are interested in these issues. I'm running for the state Senate. I currently represent the 8th Assembly District, Yolo and Solano counties, and I'm looking to extend that to San Joaquin and to support the issues that I have worked on for a great deal. In my career in public service, I have been looking out for families to make sure that they're safe. There isn't a day that doesn't go by that you don't read something in the paper about flood protection, about toxic toys, about recalls, about contaminated products, medflies, and all sorts of things, other threats. I've tried to come up with solutions to these kinds of problems, to work carefully with my Republican colleagues and with the governor, for example, to pass flood protection legislation that I'm very proud of, to protect the frail elderly and children without families. I've legislated in the area of elder protective abuse and foster children as well. I believe in protecting our native areas and our natural areas for our grandchildren, and I've worked with Governor Schwarzenegger and my colleagues, Assemblymember Nakanishi and others, to improve safety on Highway 12, a dangerous stretch of the road. More important to you, I've worked very closely with the API caucus on issues that are important to you. My first bill was to stop bullying in the classroom. I'm very proud of that, and I've supported Ted Lieu in his efforts since. I've supported the API on your priorities in the area of consumer rights and diversity in the classroom, teaching tolerance, and expanding civic participation, as well as condemning the racist remarks of Howard Coble and others. I'm a problem solver, and I look forward to working with you in the Senate.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here today. It really is an honor. There are very few organizations that have the track record and the history of achievement as APAPA does. It is very important to have a voice in your community, because that's how you make a difference. That's where you make a stand. I'm Greg Agazarian, and I'm running for the state Senate. And why am I doing that? I've served in the State Assembly for 6 years, and I've fought hard for families, for small families, for businesses, making California a better place, making sure that hardworking Californians get a fair shake. But you know what? I do it. And you got to know a little bit about who I am. I am from an immigrant family. My parents came in the United States and immediately started a business and immediately trying to take advantage and to be part of the California dream. This is important. We have so many folks in California who come from other communities, who come from other places around the world. We have to work to make California a place where everybody can share in that California dream. That's why I stand up for the small business owner. That is why I stand up for the folks who put their day each day to make California a better place, to make California a better place for their kids, to provide education for them. California small businesses have had enough of the over-excessive taxation, regulation, and litigation that they have to put up with. And it's up to us in the legislature to work with hardworking Californians from all backgrounds to make it a better place. Thank you very much for having me today.
Ladies and gentlemen of APAPA, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of the founding of APAPA. I was a little humbled earlier today by being called one of the grandfathers of APAPA, along with CCEN. I said, couldn't it just be one of the fathers, not grandfathers? Now, I have been around a little while, and I did have the privilege of the trust of the voters of the 4th Senate District for many years. It included Sacramento, went to Santa Rosa, all the way up to Shasta County. For the last 16 years, I've spent heading the Parole Board of California, the most arduous job of my life. But that, too, has been a privilege to serve. As I contemplated prayerfully with my wife a few months ago whether or not I would run for office again, and I had never intended to, we came to the conclusion that I should do that. And why? Because I love the people and I love the land. I love opportunity, economic opportunity. That's why I've been so much a part of APAPA. And not just economic opportunity, but opportunity to participate in your government. That's what I stand for.
Najon, hello. I want to tell you all a little bit something about myself. I'm Jim Cook. I spent 30 years of my life serving this country. I've been a public servant for that time. I also spent time being a school teacher. And in serving people in public service, you have got to know that young couple sitting way back there in the back. Yeah, I'm looking at you right now. Wave to me. I'm here to support and serve you. That's what this is all about. Your service, your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, your kids, your future. So that's why I'm here to run for the State Assembly. And I will tell you later on, as we move through this, why and how we're going to get this accomplished together. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to be here to talk with you. I'm not a politician. I've never ran for office before, and I'm probably the least likely person to run for office. I come from a very modest background. My parents were on welfare when I was born, and when I moved into this district in 1983, we moved into a trailer park, and I came from nothing. From a very large family, I have about 130 relatives in the area, and I was the first person in my family to go to college. And I did that because there was an affordable community college in my community that I could go to. I then got a scholarship. Yep. I got a scholarship to go to Chico State, and when budget cuts were going to threaten to cut the speech and debate program, which was the reason I was there, I transferred to Cornell University. I came back, and I took part in our UC system, and I went to Hastings College of the Law, and I've been practicing law for the last 9 years. Yep. I am living the American dream, and I want to ensure that your children, as well as my children, have the same opportunities that were available to me, and that we make sure that education stays affordable, that it is a quality education, and that the other issues that can get in the way of being educated are taken care of too, that we have affordable health care so that people don't end up having to do what my brother did, have a $39,000 hospital bill and not be able to afford it. Yeah.
What proposals do you have to reduce traffic congestion and our dependency on imported oil, because gasoline is now over $3 a gallon in California?
I have supported consistently efforts to look for alternative fuels, to make certain that we have and focus on our environment. I think it's extremely important to support innovation and creativity and research through the universities. I've been a strong supporter of that, as well as to encourage bills and support bills like AB 32, which look at climate change. Climate change is upon us, and alternative fuels are one of the answer. In addition, you talked about congestion. The transportation issues in the 10th Assembly, in the 5th Senate District, the 8th Assembly District are critical issues, and I have worked very hard to bring more resources in addition to the bonds to the district.
Yeah, those are very important issues, and this is something that we all feel in our pocketbooks every time we get behind the wheel to go to work and we sit in traffic, every time we go to fill up our gas tank and our eyes are rolling in the back of our head at the price of $3 gasoline. Well, I'm proud to say that I've I've worked with the governor, I've worked across party lines, and last year we were able to secure almost $20 billion to improve road congestion with the passage of Proposition 1B. And I'm proud to say we worked together in a bipartisan fashion so we could put monies together so we can invest in our roads. And what does that mean? What does that mean? For the area I've represented, one of the worst congested areas, one of the places that was posing the most danger, the most havoc for people trying to get to work, to school, just live their lives, was a stretch of Highway 99. And I'm proud to say that because of my efforts, we were able to get over $280 million to my district to create additional lanes, north and south. And that's just the beginning of what we can do when I'm in the Senate.
This one is to Jim Nielsen. Do you believe that the solution to prison overcrowding is to send prisoners out of state, build more prisons, or revise the three strikes law?
Do not ever think of revising the three strikes law unless you wish to become victims. Absolutely. We do need to build more prisons. Having presided over the Board of Prison Term for so many years, I can attest to that. Better rehabilitation of the folks who are incarcerated and transition into the communities also is a significant part, but that takes a long time. The other thing in terms of out of state, I'm not a big fan of it. Right now we have a necessity and we must do that. In the long run, the answer is to rehabilitate the population we have and, more importantly, work with our youth through an organization like APAPA so we don't have individuals getting on that terrible track. That's the best answer.
Thank you. The requirement to pass the California high school exit exam has resulted in many children being denied an opportunity to graduate from high school with a regular diploma. Do you support changes to the state law to allow other criteria to be considered as a condition of graduation? 30 seconds.
No, I do not. I'm a former educator. The requirements and the standards for the exit exam needs to stand. Because if we lower the standards as a law enforcement person, we're going to have more people going to prison. I don't want to lock up anybody else and send them to prison. The requirements are there so that people can learn, and we need to know that each one of you are learning so that we can keep education affordable. Why should we spend more money on prisons? Why should we spend more money on locking up people when the simple fact of the matter is we need to pay our teachers better, make sure that people get educated, make sure that you can go to junior colleges, and that take care of that problem altogether. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
We absolutely need to work together as a community to make sure that all of our kids are learning. And that means that we've got to have programs and resources available for those kids that are falling behind so that they don't fall behind. I wouldn't have graduated from high school. If you knew about me then, what you know about me now, you wouldn't have thought I would have graduated. I was working full-time till 2 o'clock in the morning, and there are a lot of kids out there who are trying to pass high school and work at the same time. And we can't just dismiss all of those kids and say that if they don't pass a particular standardized test, that means that they're not going to be able to live full and productive lives. So we have to look at quality education and not just some numerical statistic.
Thank you. In the wake of subprime lending practices, many people are losing their homes or being forced to foreclose upon them. What is your legislative plan to assist those who are suffering and prevent predatory lending practices in the future?
Well, I think it's a crime what's happened with a lot of these predatory lending practices. We need to make sure we find and we invest in the appropriate investigatory and police efforts to root out those unscrupulous mortgage lenders who got people into loans knowing full well that they were not the appropriate thing for the person, knowing that they couldn't afford them, and because of the harm it was going to cause our economy. And look what we have now. Through the San Joaquin Valley, we have some of the highest rates of foreclosures in the country. And what does that say about our economic future? This is a matter of the bottom line, and to make sure that our economies continue to grow, we need to root out the bad players, and we need to come after them with the full extent of the law.
I just want to say that as a member of the Banking Committee in the legislature, this has been an extraordinarily important issue to all of us throughout the state and throughout the nation. My colleague, Senator Machado, put forward a bill that required the guidelines and was passed and signed by the governor, and I'm very proud to have supported it. The guidelines that apply nationally must apply to California as well. We need to do that. Just to give you an example of how serious this is in my district, in Fairfield, 2 weeks ago, half of the houses that were on the market were foreclosures, half on a Sunday. It's unconscionable. A house is the most important investment that people make, and to lose it is just horrendous. So we have to do everything we can.
Thank you. There has been several hate crimes against the Asian American community. How would you propose to help the victims of hate crimes?
One of the missions of APAPA, ladies and gentlemen, to demonstrate the minority community, the strength, the mainstream capability, and to bring down those societal barriers and those terrible hates that come up in individuals' human minds. Within our schools and within our families, we must teach our children and raise our children to not have those hateful feelings. And indeed, there are statutes to prosecute hate crime, and I've certainly presided over a lot of hearings where those issues have come to the fore. We must work with our children first.
Many Asian American women are victims of domestic violence. They often have very few resources to turn to for assistance. Many times shelters lack the cultural sensitivity or language capacity to appropriately address those issues faced by Asian American women. What is your solution for preventing domestic violence and ensuring that Asian American women can receive culturally sensitive services?
First of all, I want to tell you, I am a member of APAPA, and I travel throughout Asia, Okinawa, Indonesia, Hong Kong. So I truly understand that population and that culture. I want to tell you, as a law enforcement person, it's one key thing with me. Never, ever hit a woman. There's no reason for it. If you are a man and you're so angry that you got to reach out and punch and punish a woman, you need to take a time out. Walk to the corner, walk to the store, walk out of the house. Because once you get a domestic violence on your record, guess what? You can no longer live with that woman. And the law will step in and make sure that it doesn't happen again. So my thing is, take a time out, take a walk, never ever hit a woman.
I work pretty closely with this issue with the Junior Leagues of Sacramento. That is one of their primary focus areas, is eliminating domestic violence in the Sacramento area. And I've worked with St. John's Shelter in providing the volunteers that they need to help these women who are victims of domestic violence. We absolutely have to have culturally sensitive volunteers and other organizations out there to help women or any other family member that is a victim of domestic violence. But we also need education. We need to continue to educate our youth that violence is never the answer.
Thank you, candidates. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for making this special trip over. Just and all of you realize this is just a snapshot of all the candidates, so please come up and meet them, contact their campaigns, find out what they're really about. These questions I know are agonizingly short, but at least it gives you an idea of where you're coming from, and hopefully you'll take advantage, now knowing the faces, to find out a little bit more about what they're all about. And good luck to all you candidates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For voter information or to register to vote, visit www.sos.ca.gov.